What happens when a bunch of kids decide to flip a Texan ghost town into a diversity-loving community while kicking out the mother of Leatherface? Well, nothing good. In this video, we follow the insane journey of Leela, Melody, Dante, and his soon-to-be dead fiancé X. Look at the mistakes they make and figure out how we can solve their problems more efficiently and beat Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. Let's go! One of our heroes, Leela, is currently watching TV in a gas station somewhere in Texas. The story of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is being told, which means that this film exists in the same universe, just a few decades later. Now, Leela is a young and troubled girl suffering from PTSD because she is a victim of a recent school shooting and still struggles with it. Her sister Melody, on the other hand, is a bold young woman that speaks her mind no matter the situation, which reminds me of my younger self before I was punched in the face. Now, together with their friends Dante and his fiancée, whose name is unimportant because her plot armor is pretty thin, if you know what I mean, they are currently on their way to the ghost town of Harlow. They plan to flip the houses there, establish a new community, and celebrate diversity while the first utopia comes into existence. Hell yeah. Why would he do that in Texas? I don't know, but I don't care, because it makes for a fun story. So let's go. Once they arrive, they have a look around and meet the angry Texan dude they have met at the gas station before, and find out that he is their contractor. The biggest problem for Dante, though, is the fact that one of the buildings has a Confederate flag hanging from it. To have it taken down, he marches over, enters the building, and tries to rip it off the pole. What they don't realize is that somebody is still living there, which of course is a huge problem. Now, walking into a stranger's house in the US is a pretty dangerous thing to do, and doing so in a state where gun laws are that loose doesn't support that either. I would have told the contractor instead. I mean, he's a native, knows the people, and understands the best way to go about this. Not only can I focus on other tasks instead, but I also omit the possibility of any unforeseen problems resulting from my trespassing. Now, it is true that our characters think that they have already bought this house, but the old lady they meet thinks differently. Obviously, there is a misunderstanding that needs to be cleared up, and being a dick about it helps no one. Now, before anything constructive can happen, an argument breaks out, but is interrupted by this massive dude appearing menacingly at the top of the stairs. Personally, if I saw this massive guy living with this old lady, I would shut the hell up, apologize, and leave, alright? I'm sorry. If I knew about the past massacres in this Texan wilderness, I would not be messing around with a freakishly tall weirdo like this, okay? But things get even worse. The old lady gets overexcited and has a heart attack. Great job. Luckily, the sheriff is around and decides to bring her to the next hospital. He puts her into the back, takes her to the hospital, and is accompanied by the big dude and Dante's fiancée. Let's go. Now, while Melody and Dante are busy licking the moist crevices of their investors, Dante's fiancée is on the highway to hell. The old lady dies, resulting in the big dude going berserk. He attacks the policeman, snaps his wrist like a dry twig, uses the protruding bones to stab him, triggers a gunshot that hits the sheriff on the front, and the car crash happens on top of that as well. Now look, this is a bad situation, that much is clear. Your only security were those two policemen, who are now dead, and the mesh separating you from the killer. And the fact that we are now stuck in the middle of a cornfield isn't a help neither. A careless escape is not something you wanna engage in here. Dante's fiancée wakes up and sees Leatherface preparing his new Leatherface behind the van. It's clear that he has not yet figured out that we are still alive. This is a chance he better not F up. But of course that's what she does, because if she did it right, there would be no purpose for this video. So, this woman, for whatever reason, thought it would be a good idea to reach over to the radio device, grab it, and whisper into the mic to call for help. Which is a ridiculous thing to do for multiple reasons. First of all, it doesn't matter how quiet you do that. At least once the response comes in, pretty much every living organism around you will take note of you. And even if you were able to call the National Guard itself, the time they need to arrive is well over your life expectancy here. So it's a futile attempt in any way imaginable. Instead, she should have reached over to the holstered gun on the sheriff's waist that isn't visible but dead certain to be there, step out of the car and viciously say,
"Hasta la vista, baby."
and shoot that guy's brains out while smirking like Beatrix Kiddo. But that didn't happen, of course not. Instead, she is seen and is the next victim in line. Deserved, if I might say so. Now I might add here though that when she used the mic, she was actually able to notify the gas station owner from the beginning, who has forwarded the emergency message to Sally, the sole survivor of the original Chainsaw Massacre 50 years ago. Meanwhile, back in Harlow, the sales presentation is at full capacity, and while Leela is connecting with the contractor, Dante receives the final message of his fiancée, informing him about the lady's death. Now this triggers a cascade of new events. While Dante is more or less indifferent to her passing, Melody goes full pregnancy mode, which I would have done too, alright? I mean, it was their careless accusations of her not being the owner of the orphanage that led to her cardiac arrest. But however you feel about her death, the following is just a bad idea. Melody, feeling guilty because she blames herself for the death of the old lady, requests a proof of ownership from Dante to calm her mind. But he can't find it. He claims that he has forgotten it in Austin, and instead of simply calling someone back in Austin to check up on the document in his office, the two decide to scavenge the old lady's house instead. Why the fuck would you do that? I mean, if you were unsure and you can't prove that this house belongs to you, plus you killed someone by claiming otherwise, then scavenging this house is the most unintuitive thing you can do. Well, it is what it is. They check out the orphanage, which is, well, a fatal mistake. While they're busy going through the orphanage, it doesn't take long until Dante is surprised by Leatherface. Hell yeah. He gets slashed across the face and is seemingly killed. An unavoidable death, unless you have decided against scavenging this house, which, let's be honest, you should have never done. Melody freaks out, but is clever and swift enough to hide inside the cabinet upstairs. She is smarter than Dante's fiancé and knows that staying silent is important when hiding. She takes the best chance to escape, but is surprised by his comeback, which urges her to seek refuge underneath the bed. At the same time, Leatherface hammers against the wall of the room, trying to retrieve his beloved chainsaw. This, by all means, is the best chance to go for a sprint. Not only does it look like that Melody can crawl out of the room without being seen, but he is also completely invested into tearing this wall down. The sound will help you stay quiet, and his focus will allow you to sneak out without being witnessed. Then, all you need to do is run down the stairs, leave the building, and scream your lungs out. But that doesn't happen, right? While Melody is still stuck inside the orphanage, everybody is taking shelter from the rain outside, including Leela. While most people are inside the bus now and have a nice party for no apparent reason other than being young, dumb, and rich, a woman witnesses Dante stumbling towards her with his new Joker-inspired facelift. He somehow survived the attack and notifies the people around about what is happening. The contractor sends her back to the bus, tells her to lock the door, and enters the orphanage himself. It almost seems like he knew about him living there. It's almost as if the old lady had Leatherface under control and her death now triggers a new wave of killings. I'm not sure if this is true, it's just pure speculation from my side. Anyway, the contractor is very tactical in his approach and carefully goes through the house, which is a good thing to do, right? And once he reaches the room in which both Leatherface and Melody are located, he refuses to storm mindlessly in and waits it out first. Now what is not so great, however, is the fact that Leatherface has heard him coming up and is hiding behind the door waiting to strike. But luckily, before that can happen, Melody can push the mirror a little bit to the right, which shifts the angle and lets our contractor see that Leatherface is preying on him behind the door. He leaps out of his hideout, leaps at the contractor, and the fight breaks out. It doesn't take too long until Leatherface breaks our guy's leg, but our guy doesn't really care, because having an inward turn knee is nothing to frown upon. Our guy storms at Leatherface with his broken leg, but nonetheless loses the fight pretty quickly. I think this was a missed opportunity, because with the gun they had the upper hand. And since Leatherface can only fight at a close range, there was no doubt we could have ended this massacre right here. Instead of tipping the mirror to the right, Melody should have leaped out of her hideout or at least screamed to notify the contractor in time. Now, taking Leatherface hats on is not the smartest idea, of course, but the key is to work as a team. That, together with the gun they had, would have stopped him dead certain. Now, once our guy is dead on the floor and the killer out of the room, Melody grabs the keys from him and escapes. It only takes a quick moment though until she is spotted and a mad escape breaks out, leading through the interior fundaments of the house. With a lot of luck and the help of her sister Leela, she can escape and both of them run to the bus. And here comes the most insane mistake yet. Once they arrive at the bus, they urge the driver to leave without naming any details. But before they can travel any significant distance, the bus comes to a sudden halt. Probably because our chainsaw killer has sliced open the tires. The driver goes out to check on what has happened and stupidly leaves the door open, leaving an opportunity for the big man with his chainsaw to enter. Now granted, this bus driver is only doing his job, right? The real mistake was when Melody refused to tell what is happening to the people in here. If she said something, the people would have acted more appropriately, resulting in a better response to the killing spree that lies ahead. But now, not only is the door wide open, the bus dysfunctional, and the bus filled with a bunch of clueless chicken waiting to be slaughtered, but the killer is right there as well. But fear not. Okay, with the right technique, we can overcome this too. Let's have a look. If you are not one of these morons trying to fight a giant human skin-wearing psychopath with a selfie camera, you should do the following. While he marches through the bus, stabs, slices and lifts up all those people we don't really care about, I would either hide myself under the raining dead bodies or use a time window between the killings to escape the bus. Now, after you have rolled your way past the killer like a tarnished person, and once you have side-rolled your way over the tarnished floor and past the killer, you're free to escape. But here's what happens in the movie. While the slaughter happens and nobody does anything about anything, our two girls climb through the bathroom roof and make it onto the street where they meet Sally, the sole survivor of the original film that has received Dante's fiancé's call for help before. So far, so good. They get into her big armored car, beg for an escape, but receive a pathetic nope, not today. Because Sally is out for vengeance and she won't leave until she gets what she wants. Therefore, she locks them into the car for no reason, walks into the orphanage and finds the slasher in his bedroom, looking at his childhood photos full of nostalgia and sentiment, like a real psychopath. Then, instead of him killing her, or her killing him, he walks out as if she wasn't even there. Whatever logic that follows, I don't know. But my brain mass has dropped significantly over the course of reviewing this movie, so please bear with me. Leatherface then attacks Melody and Leela, who are still in the car. But lo and behold, the brave rescuer Sally comes just in time and is able to scare him off. He then rushes away, but returns from the darkness, dodges every projectile fired by her shotgun twice, and well, kills her too. Let's go. Melody then tries to run him over to finally stop this nonsense, but is distracted by a flying chainsaw that hits the windshield and swerves off-road. She crashes the car, injures her leg, and well, wrestles with the fact that it's over. This, my friends, is what an OP plot armor looks like, and it's not a sign of a good movie. But anyway, Melody is stuck. Therefore, Leela has to overcome her traumatic and panic attack-inducing fear of guns, picks up the AR-15, and tries to finish the job, only to realize that the mag is empty. Now at this point, I have double-checked the title of this movie just to make sure that I am not accidentally watching a new scary movie installment. But it turns out that no, we're not. This is a legit Chainsaw Massacre installment. So, yes, that's what it is. Well, Leela is chased down the street and almost, you guessed it, killed as well before Sally comes back from the dead and conveniently shoots Leatherface from her comfortable seat in the garbage bags. She hands Leela the loaded shotgun afterwards and sends her onto her way to go for another try to end what she has messed up a billion times in the last 2.5 minutes. Now we finally come to the climactic sequence, the battle of all battles, Maximus versus the last boss. Well, not quite. Leela commits a few mistakes right off the bat. Now first of all, you don't enter a building to fight a giant psychopath that wields a chainsaw. The best chances you have, be it with a gun or without, is in the open area. She should have stayed with her sister instead and waited for him to appear. Hunting a hunter is not the smartest thing to do. However, in case you are in need to fight him inside this building, then use the walls as directional protection, like we have learned from an unhealthy dose of Call of Duty back when the series was still a good thing. Not only does she ignore all the basic facts though, but she also lets herself be baited by his revving chainsaw that he has left in the middle of a room. Luckily, her sister comes out of nowhere, jumps onto his back, and successfully overwhelms him and uses his chainsaw to pass him one last blow. He falls backwards into a pool of water, and our girls seemingly win the fight. But they have forgotten one key thing, which is double tap. That's right. As they're driving out of town, Leatherface appears out of nowhere and pulls Melody out of the car and, well, decapitates her while her sister drives off with the face of an 8-year-old child that had a change of heart after having embarked a steep roller coaster ride. Whatever this movie was, it taught me two things. First, humor comes in many shapes and forms, and writing a successful movie does not appear to be so difficult. But what do you think? What would have you done differently if you were one of the characters? Let me know down below. As always, I thank you so much for being here. Catch you guys again soon. Peace out and binge another one.